Hello. Hello everyone, today we will learn about a fantasy movie called Return to the 17. Mike is a basketball star on his high school team, but before a game that determines his future, he suddenly learns that his girlfriend, Scarlett, has become pregnant unexpectedly. Mike is psychologically affected, so he cannot promote his innate ability. And when he saw his girlfriend about to leave, he didn't care about the match anymore, but went to propose to his girlfriend. The blink of an eye is already in middle age, but because of repeated failures in life, has created many doubts about this love. And because he was constantly complaining, Scarlett couldn't take it any longer, so she proposed a divorce. Mike, after being kicked out, can only stay at the house of his high school classmate Nick, but just when he thinks his career will have a chance to take a good turn, he encounters an unsatisfactory and disappointing situation. Then, because his career and family were not favorable, Mike wanted to go back to the time when he was in high school. Looking at the trophies and photos displayed in the glass cabinet, he couldn't help but remember the glory days of the past. At this time, an old man cleaning with a white beard suddenly appeared. While the cleaner was asking, Mike casually said that he wanted to go back to the past. Not only failed in the husband and wife relationship, Mike's relationship with his two children was also very bad. Faced with the coldness of his children, he had no choice but to send his two children home. At this time, Scarlett's wife is packing all of Mike's personal belongings for destruction. Mike saw it and was about to talk to his wife, but at the same time, his wife's best friend came. Mike was ignored, so he just chose to leave. On the way back home, it was raining heavily. He saw on the big bridge the cleaner he had met at school. Looks like he jumped off the bridge. Mike was worried, so he hurriedly got out of the car to check. But he quickly discovered that there was a whirlpool in the river, so deep that he couldn't see it, while he accidentally fell into that vortex. The next day Mike, covered in mud, returned to Nick's house. Just when he started to treat the dirt on his body, he discovered that he had turned into the appearance of 17 years old. At first, he didn't think there was a thief in his house, but after a fierce fight with Mike, Nick looked through a photo taken when he graduated from high school and realized that the person standing in front of him was his best friend. Nick by this time was making a fortune selling video games and software. Although he was exposed to computers all year round, he still couldn't explain what strange things had happened to Mike's body. But the cleaner's thoughtful smile before disappearing made Mike not have time to change his clothes and immediately ran to the school. Although he couldn't find anyone, he quickly discovered that the cleaner seemed to intentionally direct him to the front of the basketball court. How does this make you feel? This is an opportunity that fell from the sky. After convincing his best friend, Mike pretended to be Nick's son, taking the name Mark, once again enrolled in high school. But while trying to find fake documents to deceive the principal, he was struck by lightning in love with this beautiful and serious headmistress. After stopping Nick from saying things he shouldn't, Mike saw a lot of female classmates, but because he was dressed too old-fashioned, he only received ridicule from the girls. So, after listening to Nick's advice, he once again proceeded to refurbish himself. Driving Nick's stylish sports car, Mike now brightened up in the eyes of the female students. While Mike was studying, he received a phone call from his wife. It was only now that he remembered that today was the day when the two had agreed to divorce, but because the sound in the classroom was too loud, he hastily made up stories to delay the meeting. After that, Mike, relying on his own strengths, began to observe his daughter in school. During PE class, he showed his superiority, once again attracting the attention of the head coach. But while Mike was telling himself about some interesting news, he caught in the bathroom his son Alex being bullied by a member of the basketball team. Then he took the name of Nick's son to help Alex get out of trouble. Through Alex's words, he quickly learned that the person who bullied Alex was the captain of the football team named Stan. This guy is the girl's boyfriend. Seeing Stan and his daughter kiss passionately with his own eyes, he couldn't help but provoke Stan. Mike again used skillful ball techniques to humiliate this big idiot. At this point, Mike finally realizes that he turned 17 not to make up for what he missed that year, but to help his two children find their way in life. So Mike went to Alex. First, he discovered his son's natural basketball ability. While Mike was encouraging his son to join the basketball team, he discovered his best friend and wife Scarlett came home together. Scarlett immediately recognized the man standing in front of her. There were some points again. Same as Mike in high school. On his second day in philosophy of health education, Mike realizes that these kids don't understand love at all, just waiting for the teacher to hand out condoms. Seeing that, he was worried about his daughter, so he stood up in front of the whole class and presented his views on a relationship between men and women. But after a sincere explanation, the whole class turned into disdain and protest. Taking the condom back into her bag, the daughter was clearly touched by Mike's statement, but she still didn't have time to react when Stan forced a kiss right in the classroom. Mike saw this, dragged Stan to the ground, but he was defeated. Not only was the parent called, but the entire fight was videotaped and broadcast everywhere. Taking the opportunity, Mike was called to his parents. Nick ate it so eye-catching. This made the serious headmistress speechless. After school, Mike not only happened to meet Scarlett, but also realized that his wife was repairing the garden of the house that he had previously abandoned. So he began to spend time with Scarlett rearranging the flower garden, taking advantage of the opportunity to monitor the relationship between the daughter and Stan. In addition, under Mike's guidance, his son Alex's playing skills are also improving, and both were selected to the school football team. After Mike told this story to Scarlett, Scarlett by the way told them about her achievement. The beautiful flower garden suddenly seemed like a dream scene that made Mike praise forever. After that, Scarlett dressed up gorgeously, preparing to go with her new boyfriend. Seeing her figure standing in front of the mirror dancing and jumping, immediately made Mike think of the two's fond memories. At first Scarlett wanted to keep some distance between them, but looking at that familiar face of Mike, she finally lost her temper. Just when Alex suddenly appeared and interrupted, the two still hadn't done anything that crossed the line. But seeing his mother's best friend in the room and dancing, still made Alex feel a little wrong. Seeing Scarlett and the single man leave with his own eyes, Mike was really jealous. Seeing his daughter sneaking out to go to the party, he was worried about his daughter, so he immediately dragged Alex along. This time encouraged Alex to confess to Nikon, but Alex was too nervous, not only talking a lot, making Nikon confused, but also carelessly burning his pants by the candle, and Mike was stopped by the girls. In the party, faced with the temptation of these girls, Mike was in no mood to notice. After finding his daughter, he found out that her daughter gave up the announcement of her admission to the university because of Stan. Mike couldn't hold back his anger, so he temporarily forgot his current identity. He gave orders that made no sense to his daughter. The basketball game was held as planned on the football field. Mike saw Scarlett and her new boyfriend dating. Although he was very commendable, he did not forget his duty. In a pivotal moment, he stole the volleyball for Alex. The ball into the basket. Alex scored 3 points. They eventually took the lead by 1 point, winning the match. Alex gets a hug from Nikon. This can equal the joy of all students. The principal encounters the person she doesn't want to see the most, which is Nick, who is always pursuing her. The principal was so annoyed that he didn't know what to do. Finally, so that Nick wouldn't bother anymore, he also agreed to go to dinner with him. At this point, Mike saw his friend and the principal leaving. Thinking about the fact that his son had no chance to confess to Nikon, son decided to have a party at Nick's house. But he quickly realized that his daughter was sitting in the empty stands crying. He immediately went up to inquire. It turned out that after the results of the competition, Stan wanted to have sex with his daughter, but his daughter refused. Stan, in a fit of rage, offered to break up. After knowing the truth, Mike began to comfort his daughter, but his actions caused her daughter to misunderstand. Mike could only use the invitation to the party to divert the conversation, and then rush out of the stands. That night, the party was held on schedule. Alex arrives with Nikon. Because Stan insulted his daughter, Mike wants to help her teach Stan back. As a result, the opponent was beaten to faint. When he woke up, he realized that his daughter was trying to forcefully kiss him. So he only had to say he had a lover to show his rejection. At that moment, Scarlett was worried about her daughter, so she went to the party. Mike told his wife about Alex being immersed in love. But just as Scarlett thanked Mike for his help, Mike couldn't stop his love, so he kissed her. But the whole scene happened to be seen by the girl downstairs. So Mike suddenly became a pervert, kissing his classmate's mother. Elsewhere, Nick is forcing himself to adapt to the high-end restaurant ceremony. Although his strange gestures put the principal to shame, coincidentally, Nick mentioned the investment to buy Gandalf's magic wand. This has made the same ideal person as the principal bright eyes. The two used even more divine languages to enjoy dinner. During the conversation, Nick could not contain himself. The two were about to go home to bed. When Nick brought the principal home, he discovered that this place was like going through a great disaster. With the principal's help, Nick was able to invite these remakes out of the house. Due to the date of the court hearing, Mike with Nick's help rushed to the court, but the judge decided to pronounce the sentence. The panicked Mike could only use Scarlett's husband's name to read an envelope. The content of the letter really touched Scarlett. She subconsciously pushed back the decision to divorce. When she picked up the letter paper that Mike had thrown away, she discovered that there was only an address written on the paper. When she got home, Scarlett looked at her high school graduation notebook. The results discovered that the man called Mark looked like Mark, just like Mike at 17. Elsewhere, Mike thought he had failed, so he began to focus on training and also decided to let his wife find a better life. On the observatory of the previous game, at the opening, Mike was a move again. It was a move that Scarlett was very familiar with. Scarlett had no way of accepting the truth, so she decided to leave. But her actions once again provoked Mike's recollection. Countless images appeared in Mike's mind. Mike finally made the exact same decision years ago. He let his original replacement, Alex, enter the field. The cleaner's smile filled with happiness. At first Mike thought he and Scarlett were just passing each other's lives, but now he has the most correct choice. He has really turned into his original form. Scarlett was hiding in the dark, approaching suspiciously. She saw Mike's bold expression of love, and did not dare to believe everything she saw. But all this no longer mattered, as Mike soon realized his own problems. Before his sincere apology, the two also found a love that was almost lost. Mike eventually became the basketball coach for high school students, and Nick and the principal also came together. The two good brothers finally found their own happiness. Okay, that's all for today.